Welcome back to Kidman Bites, episode number 3. This is 10 minutes or less to give you an opportunity to empower yourself, to develop yourself as a leader so that we can lead and reach generations to come. Last week we talked about being that type of leader. What do we need to be if we're going to reach Gen Z, Gen Alpha, Gen Beta? 6 priorities were given to you: have fun and engage and work together as a team, point them to a big God, take ownership, put people first, think beyond today. Hopefully, you spent some time processing those, asking some questions of your team. Maybe you listen to it together. Maybe you listen to it over your favorite cup of coffee. Maybe you listen to it on your ride into work. But the hope is that in 10 minutes or less, there's a leadership lesson. There's something that made you think and ask the question of, like, well, what must I do? How do I grow? How do we grow? And so today it is really all about you. Leadership development rhythms. How will you grow as a leader, and what does development look like for you? And I think that's also often a term that is kind of foreign when you get your job description. Like, your job description says, what should you do? What are some of your outcomes? What are some of your goals? But I don't think it often lists out, like, how will you develop? And so I think often kids ministries are left to kind of figure that out for themselves, which is where articles come in, which is where conferences come in, and we go to those and we say, fix me or help me grow because I'm stuck in some particular space. And so we're going to offer that to you today. We're going to start with these 5 C's of leadership. And you've probably seen these, heard these in some framework somewhere, but the first one is competence, second one is courage, third is clarity, fourth is communication, fifth is character. I'm not going to leave you there and just move on by those, but let's talk about the competence, your skill and your effectiveness. How are you growing? How effective are you in what you do? You have to grow in that regularly. Ask the questions of, how am I doing? Ask people, how is this going? But if you just think you have all the answers, you will miss out, and you will not appear and be as competent. This is huge if you're leading those who are older than you. I get asked the question often is, how do I lead people older than me? Well, a part of it is some of what you know. A lot of it is who you are, and we'll touch on that in character. But people don't expect you to know everything. They do expect you to be aware of it and trying. And so in confidence, how are you actively growing? One of the best things you can do is acknowledge your inefficiencies, your weaknesses, and bring people in to help you in those areas. But if you just try to be a know-it-all, you're going to limit other people and their opportunity to use their gift. Courage, your willingness to act bold. I think this generation of leaders will not stand for nonsense. They will not stand for you being unwilling to stand up for what is right, to fight for your environment, to fight for your people, and to try things new. We can't have a fearful ministry that teaches of a God who is not of fear. We have to have the courage to do the right things, to fight for the right things. Like, yeah, maybe ministry is hard, but I have the courage to fight through it in this season. Clarity. Where are we going? This one is huge, y'all. Clarity. Clear vision and direction. Where are we going? I think as you're serving in your ministry, you got some people who are just along for the ride, and there's nothing wrong with that. We call them solid citizens. They're there. They're going to get it done. It does, like, I got you. I find that more of my Gen Z volunteers want to know why. What are we doing? How are we going to get there? And you have to have clarity. And so we'll probably need to do an episode on how to lead when you don't have full clarity. When you're leading with a little bit of uncertainty. But why are we doing this program? Why is this classroom set up like this? Why is this curriculum what we're using? Why are we doing these events? Clarity in speaking to why. So we tell everybody, hey, we're creating environments where the unchurched love to attend, and the church are fully engaged with God, insiders, and outsiders. Clarity. Why are we doing it this summer? Well, why are we having events? Well, we want to be the premier summer experience. Why is that important? Because there are kids who need the church and are looking for a space to fill time, and so we want to gather them and utilize that time to help them to be better followers of Jesus. Clarity and vision for the direction. Communication, inspiring and aligning others. How do you communicate with others? This is big. Not just your emails, not just your planning center request, but how do you communicate with people? How's your nonverbal communication? How is your verbal communication? Your written communication? Like, are you putting a bunch of acronyms when you're communicating with people? Are you listening to respond and not understand when you're communicating with people? Sometimes we just got to be present. I had to learn this because I think I just try to communicate with people and how I like to be communicated. I'm very, tell me what we need to do. Let's get it done. Let's roll. Well, there's some people who need a little bit slower. They need time. They need you to connect with them first. Well, you can't disregard that because you're not wired like that. You have to be intentional and support them as well. Character, your integrity, your trustworthiness. There's articles out there that talk about how the church has to kind of regain trust and how there's revivals. And the fear is that we come in and we just have this expectation that people trust us. And I think we have to earn that. We have to show up consistently in people's lives, but to show up consistently in parents and volunteers' lives. And so you and I have to spend time on these 5. Competence, your skill, courage, your willingness to act boldly, clarity on vision and direction, communication, your character. You cannot develop other people if you're not developing yourself. Which leads me to the last page of this document. I've told you in the last episode that I have a whole document here, and once we're done with this, I'm going to offer this to you so that you can go through it with yourself, with your teams, and it's a whole leadership development guide. And just so, yep, there we go. So, rhythms. Daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. Here's my recommendation. Daily. Time with God. Don't miss out on that. Growing in knowledge, which means that you're listening to something, you're reading something, you're watching something. There's way too much information out there for us not to be growing daily. And then connecting with a team member. It doesn't matter how big your volunteer base is, but if you're intentional in connecting with people, that matters. And so even if you just did a call a day, that's 5 volunteers you're talking to every week. If you did Monday through Friday, I'm going to call somebody every day. And then if you backed in and said, I'm going to call and I'm going to text. Now you're at 10. Connecting with team members matters, especially if you're not just saying, when are you going to show up? But you have to have these daily rhythms, reflection daily, weekly. Go to your church service. Now, I know that might be hard if you have one service, but I need you to figure out, do they stream it? Do they offer it online? Can you pop into a partner church and get a chance just to hear from them? But there has to be weekly time where you're in the church. Don't tell people to go to church and not go to church yourself. You have to do that. Connect with your team, whether that's a huddle, whether that's an email, whether that is a meeting. You have to have rhythms where you empower them. And that connection isn't just talking. That connection is, hey, I read this week. What do you think this means? I listened to a podcast this week. It said this. Let me share this with you. Connect with your team and cast vision while you're serving every week. So there's not a week that goes by that we're not talking to somebody and encouraging them and just saying, hey, thank you so much for being here. Did you know this? Or did you receive this? Or did you get this? And so we're encouraging them every week, daily, weekly, monthly. Monthly, I think you need to have a team meeting of some sort, whether that's in person, whether that's on Zoom, whether that's after service, you hang out for a little bit, but I think you have to have one. And if it's afforded to you, a one-on-one with your leader. Whoever's over you, maybe you get once a month, and if not more, great, but at least once a month where you get some time with them where you get a chance to just offer feedback, tell them how you're really doing. What are some of my crutches where I need some help? What are some of the things that are going very well? Maybe there's a mentor, somebody who's ahead of you. And that might not be, maybe it's a Zoom that you're jumping on with them. Maybe it's coffee with somebody in your area, but then you get a chance to learn from somebody ahead. Here's a cheat code. I would say podcast cap. If there's somebody who is doing ministry that is further along than you and you listen to that monthly and you grow, I consider that a win. Because everything doesn't have to be, let me get on the phone with you, let me email you. Maybe I'm just listening to what you're putting out. And then monthly, you're planning ahead. Where are we going in the next 3 months, 6 months, Just take some time, jot it down, because now you're creating margin to be able to lead further. Quarterly. If there's a conference or some type of training, I'd encourage you to attend it. There's got to be something somewhere out there that you can learn from on a quarterly that's greater than just a podcast. Maybe you visit another ministry quarterly. Hey, I'm just gonna pop in. Can I come visit? There's more than enough churches for you to be able to do that. And then maybe there's a ministry wide gathering where you invite a larger group of team. That's a leadership development rhythm that I use with my team: daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. And the goal is that you have these rhythms that help you grow, that help other people grow. And when you have that clarity, you have that consistency, your team will appreciate you. They will say thank you for it because you value their time. And so all we're trying to do is help leaders get better. We went over a minute this time, but we're going to keep it right around this time. So this is Kidman Bites. I'll see you next week.